What it do, YouTube? I'm David Sexton, and this is Sexton EDT. And today, I'm going to tell you a story about a boy and his iPads. It's a love story. I can remember when the rumors were starting to ramp up pretty hot and heavy back towards the end of 2009. I don't exactly remember the date that I first heard the rumors, but I do remember November, December-ish of 2009. I was deployed to Iraq. One of the stations I was stationed to, Station 4, was just off the Baghdad airport, and we had internet access there. So when I had downtime, I would hop online, and when I wasn't on Facebook keeping up with friends and family back home, I was keeping up with my tech news. Back then probably would have been CNET and the Apple Byte with Brian Tong. So shout out to Brian Tong, who jumped over to YouTube a few years back. But the fever for the wrongly dubbed iSlate there for a little while was getting pretty high, and so much so that I had even gone to look into finding a company that was turning old unibody MacBooks into touchscreen devices by taking off the top layer and flipping over with a touchscreen. And I think it required you to use like a Wacom stylus in order to use it, but it was just not practical, kind of not affordable from what I remember, and just wasn't going to fit the solution. But just the idea of having a tablet, which was the craze at the time, where you could, hold the internet in the palm of your hands on a glass-like device where you could manipulate it with your fingers. Just the user ability of that just seemed awesome, and I was here for it. I was all about it. And then I know in January of 2010, I was still in Iraq when they released the keynote that introduced the iPad. I remember watching it while I was over there. It probably took the whole damn day to buffer that thing, but I remember watching it and knew right then I had to have it. Had to get my hands on that. By the time pre-orders went out, I had made it back stateside with a pocket full of deployment money, so I said, why not? And never regretted a moment of it. That became my favorite, not just favorite tablet, not just favorite computing device, but like my favorite Apple device overall was the iPad. It was limited in that original run. A lot of the apps where you were trying to upsize from the iPhone. You gotta remember back then, that was like the iPhone 3GS era, I think. I remember at that time I had an iPhone 3G that I had while in Iraq, which is funny to me because, I put that thing through hell in Iraq, had a cracked screen on it. It was all beat up, but I remember in my downtime when I didn't have internet access, I was reading through the Kindle app on that little bitty 3.5-inch screen, Anna Karenina by Tolstoy. So it always makes me chuckle to think I read that long ass book on such a small, cracked screen, no less. But nonetheless, some of the apps, didn't do so great. They were basically just trying to blow them up to the iPad. But overall, the device, the idea, the usability of it, just made the iPad just an awesome experience, and one that I enjoyed immensely. And then the iPad mini came out, and I grabbed the iPad mini when it first came out, sold the regular iPad, decided I'd go back down a size. Played with that for a while, kind of went back and forth there for a while to new iterations of mini and regular sized iPads, and kind of, was just jumping back and forth between the smaller and larger screens until the iPad Pro came out, the first one, the 12.9. By the time that was announced, I was out of the military, but was doing a military contracting overseas. So by the time that 12.9 came out and was announced, I had come back home from one of my contracts, again with overseas money in my pocket to spare. So I snatched up the 12.9, and that fast became my favorite device of all time. Just the huge size, like just for consuming content and watch your shows, like holding it right to your face. And another thing that I really enjoyed about that iPad Pro was the multitasking feature that it added with that big screen real estate. I could be reading a magazine or a book and then have a picture-in-picture window going with whatever I was watching, TV shows, news, keeping up with my tech videos, whatever. I could have that right there while also reading. That was just an awesome feature to me, and I loved it. And then from the original iPad Pro 12.9, jumped down to the iPad Pro 10.5, tried that. And then when the new redesign of the 12.9 came out, Same big 12.9 screen, but in a smaller form factor. I jumped all over it. This is the 2018. I saw no reason to upgrade to the M1 version. That M1 chip is nice, but they just underutilize it in iPad OS, and I saw no reason to upgrade until maybe they make some pro features and pro apps to utilize that power. I don't see why anybody would need to upgrade to the M1 version. This 2018 is doing great. And then they came out in 2020 with the Magic Keyboard case. This thing took my iPad Pro to a whole nother level. I was able to actually replace my laptop with this guy, keep an iMac and a Mac Mini at home. I was able to access both of those computers through parallel access on here, so anywhere that I had internet connection, and so long as my internet connection remained stable at home, I could basically use Mac OS on this guy if I ever needed to. For most things I was doing, iPad OS was just fine. So I saw no reason to have a laptop anymore. I just got rid of my laptop when this keyboard case came out, and this was my only mobile device. If you've been watching the channel, you know that my use case is changing. I'm going back to school, doing some data and cybersecurity type stuff. That was no longer gonna cut it. So I went ahead and bought one of the new M1 MacBook Airs, which I'll do some videos on in the future, since I didn't really need that. With the announcement of this guy right here, I found that I no longer was using my iPad Pro. This guy kind of started collecting dust, because with the added feature of Apple Pencil 2 support, being able to smash right on there, and the portability and size of this guy, you know, I no longer need my Amazon Kindle. I never need like a scratch notebook. I can write with that on the pencil. I don't need my planner or my journal. Both of those are getting replaced by this guy. And even with the Quick Notes feature, I don't even need sticky pads anymore, hardly. This guy right here kind of does it all for me in that sense. Now granted, I'm not gonna use this to replace a laptop, but since I already had to move to a laptop situation because of going back to school, this fits my needs way better than this iPad Pro does. I know it seems weird to go down to such a small device, being such a fan of the iPad Pro, but the iPad Mini 6 is a game changer for me. I tried the iPad Mini 5, and I just, you know, I couldn't go back to the Apple Pencil 1 after using the Apple Pencil 2 with the convenience factor of this. I mean, that's just a clunky way to charge it, plugging it into the bottom and holding it up like a picket sign, basically. But I ended up giving that iPad Mini 5 to my stepson, 10-year-old, who likes to draw. It's working great for him. I got him a case, has the little pencil holder on the side, and you know, he loves it. So it's great for him. It just didn't work for me. The Mini 6 came out. I was super stoked when they announced that. Again, pre-ordered this guy, and I've had it for, what, I guess 60 days now, however long it's been out. I got it, you know, with the first shipment, and I haven't been able to put this thing down. I've noticed my productivity get a little better because I always have this with me. I'm reading more. You know, I did have my Kindle before. This guy's just always with me. I'll make better assurances to have this guy with me because it can do so much. And I have the space for it in my bags because I'm no longer carrying my notebooks, and the Kindle's not there. Now, I will say the only knock I do have on this guy, and the reason I am gonna keep my Kindle at least just for going to the beach and sitting by the lake, doing those things, is because this thing does not read well in direct sunlight just because it's only 500 nits. But at that price point, I can't be mad at them. They did what they did, or had to do, to keep the price point where it was. So the Kindle will stay, but it'll stay in a beach bag, because everything else my iPad Mini 6 is doing for me. And I'll actually be selling that iPad Pro because I just don't use it anymore. If you need the one device to rule them all, definitely the iPad Pro is the way to go. You know, as long as you're not doing any super heavy computing. You know, I got by fine. There's a video coming of me using this guy with parallel access to show you that you can run Mac OS on it pretty well with little to no lag, so long as your internet connections are good. But if you don't need the laptop replacement aspect, I'm gonna tell you right now, the best combination is this guy, the iPad Mini 6, and the MacBook Air M1. When you add those two together, you're still only about $100 more than you would be with the iPad Pro and the keyboard case. And you're getting the best of both worlds, in my opinion, rather than having to make compromise using one device. So, in summary, you need one device, go with the iPad Pro. It does everything well. It does everything great, actually. If you want to do things perfectly in their own niche, however you pronounce that word, go with the iPad Mini 6 and get yourself an M1 MacBook Air. Have both your bases covered. As always, thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, please like, please subscribe. I'll have more of these type of videos in the future. If you have any comments, any constructive criticism, suggestions, please pop them in the comments. I will be trying to get better as time goes on. Be sure to watch my first video where I explain what this channel is going to be about. And until next time, live free or don't.